Have you ever seen a billionaire trapped inside his own sinking car pounding helplessly against a window, while icy river water rises past his chest and then be rescued by a homeless child swinging a brick? What would drive a 7-year-old girl to dive into a freezing river for a man she'd never met? A man responsible for destroying her family's life. This isn't just a story about survival. It's about guilt redemption and a second chance that no one saw coming. When Grant Whitmore, once the untouchable king of Wall Street, finds himself drowning in more than just debt, it's a child from the streets who pulls him back to life. But that rescue is only the beginning, because hidden behind the girl's courage is a truth that will unravel Grant's empire, shake his fractured family, and bring him face to face with an enemy who wants more than revenge. He wants to erase Grant's legacy forever. Stay with us, because in the next few moments, you'll witness betrayal, sacrifice, and a transformation so powerful it just might change how you see forgiveness. One river, one child, one final chance to make things right. The question is, will it be enough? The sky over New York was steel gray, the kind of morning where even the sunlight seemed reluctant to show up. Grant Whitmore, the billionaire CEO of Whitmore Financial, was gripping the steering wheel of his black armored Lexus, as if it could anchor his collapsing world. He was headed across Hudson Bridge, a shortcut to the financial district, but nothing about his life was feeling short these days except time. His empire was drowning in debt, $300 million in red ink. Investors were vanishing like smoke, and today's emergency board meeting was either going to save his legacy or bury it. But it wasn't just numbers haunting him. It was the hollow silence between him and his daughter Sophie. They hadn't spoken in 2 years. She'd stopped returning his calls after her mother, his ex-wife, walked out with nothing but a suitcase and a goodbye letter he still hadn't read. The car's leather interior smelled of power and precision, but Grant's mind was anything but composed. For all his boardroom brilliance, there was something he couldn't shake, a gnawing, invisible pressure pressing against his chest. And then everything unraveled in seconds. A dark vehicle swerved into the narrow bridge lane behind him, weaving aggressively, engine howling. At first, Grant assumed it was a reckless driver, but the calculated movements, the way it gained on him, without hesitation, it felt surgical, intentional. He pressed harder on the gas. No escape. Hudson Bridge was narrow, flanked by old steel guardrails with the river churning furiously below. The impact came like thunder. The other car slammed into his rear bumper, forcing his vehicle forward with terrifying force. Tires screeched. The barrier shattered. And before Grant could even curse, his luxury armored vehicle pitched sideways off the edge of the bridge and plummeted into the icy Hudson River. He didn't scream. There wasn't time. The water swallowed the car like a hungry beast, rushing over the windshield, then seeping through the cracked seams of the door. Grant coughed, choked, thrashed. The cabin filled fast. His fingers trembled against the window, pushing the button. Nothing. Electrical systems failed on impact. He reached for his emergency glass breaker in the glove compartment, gone. The impact must have knocked it loose. The only thing between him and death was an old decision 6 weeks ago to reduce weight. He had replaced the factory bulletproof windows with high-grade safety glass for maintenance testing. It was supposed to be temporary, and it was about to save his life. But he didn't know that yet. Not as the water reached his chest, not as he banged his fist against the glass and screamed into a void of silence. Then something moved outside. At first he thought it was a hallucination, a blur, a shadow, but it had a shape, small, wiry. A child, yes. A little girl, maybe 7 years old, with tangled brown hair, torn clothing, and eyes that didn't blink against the freezing water. In her hands, a brick. She raised it, slammed it against the glass. It cracked. Grant's mouth dropped open in disbelief. She hit it again, crackling fractures spread like spiderwebs. Again. The water was rising faster. Grant's chest heaved. The cold was agonizing. His lungs screamed. Then crash. The glass caved. Freezing water exploded into the cabin. The girl reached inside, grabbed his coat collar with fingers far stronger than they should have been, and pulled. Grant kicked, twisted, fought. He didn't feel his body move. He just felt the suction of death letting go. They surfaced, coughing, choking, gasping. His hand gripped jagged rocks of the shoreline. The girl dragged him until he lay flat, trembling and wide-eyed. They said nothing. She didn't ask if he was okay, didn't wait for a thank you. She looked at him once softly and then turned to leave. But something slipped from her coat, a pendant. It clinked against the rocks. Grant picked it up. Inside the glass locket was a photo, a child, a girl about 5 years old smiling beside another girl with blonde curls and a bright pink dress. Sophie, his Sophie, the girl who had saved him, had a picture of his daughter. Grant's chest tightened harder than during the crash. He shouted after her, "Wait, who are you? Why do you have this?" But the girl was already gone, slipping under the steel bones of the bridge like a ghost. His heart pounded louder than the wind. His soaked clothes clung to him like chains. Who was she? Why would a homeless child risk her life to save a stranger? And how did she have a photograph of his daughter, Grant Whitmore, a man once untouchable in glass towers, now sat trembling by the riverbank with more questions than breath? Not about stocks or wealth, but about fate and secrets. Secrets that just cracked open like glass under a brick. We're deeply sorry for the interruption, but we'd love to hear from you. Do you think the little girl knew Grant before saving him? Or was it destiny? Would you risk your life for a stranger if it meant uncovering a truth long buried? If this part moved you, please show some love like this video and tap that heart. Your support means more than you know. A cold wind knifed across the riverbank as EMTs arrived, but Grant Whitmore barely registered the stretcher or the flash of ambulance lights. All he saw was the locket in his trembling hand, his daughter's childhood face smiling beside that mysterious girl. The paramedics wrapped him in foil blankets, yet the real chill was inside him. How had Riley Monroe crossed paths with Sophie? And why did every instinct whisper that saving him had come at a staggering cost? At dawn, Grant opened his eyes beneath sterile fluorescence at Clearview Medical. His lungs ached, his bones felt drowned, but his mind sprinted. Before the attending physician even stepped in, Grant had already called Ethan Caldwell, friend fixer, and the closest thing he had to a conscience to start digging for the girl. Dr. Caroline Vaughn walked in with practiced calm and an intravenous drip. Chestnut hair and a no-nonsense syrup-soft voice, clipboard perfectly aligned with her fingers, everything about her radiated competence. Still, something about her eyes felt appraising. She checked Grant's vitals, reminded him of the dangers of hypothermia, then urged rest. Grant nodded, but the second she left, he muttered to Ethan, who had slipped into the room like gravity itself. "Find Riley," Grant whispered, "and find out why she carries Sophie's picture." Ethan's jaw tightened. He'd already heard about the locket. "I'm on it, but there's more. Your crash wasn't random. That car behind you was registered to a shell company linked to Derek Vaughn." Grant's heart banged louder than the heart monitor. Derek Vaughn, ex-partner, ex-friend, the man whose hand he'd once shaken while quietly edging him out of Whitmore Financial. Derek had vanished into the shadows years ago, with nothing but rage and a Rolodex of grudges. Grant Ethan added voice, low word as Derek's been meeting with Sophie. The blow landed harder than the bridge railing. Sophie, already convinced her father valued profit over people, was exactly the kind of wounded spirit Derek would use like a pawn. Hours later, Ethan returned with a file the size of a Bible. "I found Riley's name. She's the daughter of Nathan Monroe. Nathan worked in your compliance division 6 years ago. Clean record, praised for integrity." Ethan's eyes darkened. "You fired him." Grant's stomach turned. He vaguely recalled a memo about an analyst refusing to sign off on subprime foreclosure packages that had ballooned profits but shattered families. The board wanted decisive action. He'd delivered. What happened to Nathan? Ethan laid down photos, hospital bills, a foreclosure notice, an obituary, diabetes complications. Couldn't afford treatment after losing his insurance. His wife Laura picked up graveyard cleaning shifts, died in a late-night accident. Riley was left on the streets. If guilt had a taste, it was salt water and rust. Grant clenched the sheets. "Nathan stuck to his principles, so I destroyed him. His little girl saved me anyway." Thunder rattled the window as if to punctuate the truth. Then the room phone rang. No caller ID. Ethan answered, placed it on speaker. A voice like velvet dipped in acid. "Enjoying your second chance, Grant?" You owe it to Riley Monroe, but debts have a way of doubling. Grant recognized the cadence immediately. Derek. Good to know those boardroom instincts still work, Derek said. I'm calling to collect. My driver failed to sink you thanks to a child you ruined. Consider this my counteroffer. Static crackled, then a young voice sobbed faintly. Mr. Whitmore. It was Riley. They grabbed me. I quiet. Derek barked and Riley's whimper twisted Grant's gut. If you want her alive, come alone tonight, 11 p.m. Fulton Industrial Warehouse. No police, no heroes, just you. Otherwise, she'll finish the swim you started. The line went dead. Grant stared at Ethan, then at Dr. Caroline Vaughn, stepping back into the doorway, eyes wide as though she'd heard nothing. Yet the tiniest smirk flickered before she masked it with professional concern. Ethan waited until the doctor left to speak. We need a plan. No, Grant said. We need the truth. Pull Caroline Vaughn's personnel file. Minutes later, Ethan's screen lit up. Dr. Caroline Vaughn's sister to Derek. Medical school tuition paid through a series of shell trusts tied to Whitmore Financial's darker investment arms. Grant's mouth ran dry. His own money had bankrolled the very doctor, feeding his health stats to a madman. The warehouse meet is a trap, Ethan said. But if we tip off the police, Derek kills Riley before they arrive. Grant inhaled. Then we outthink him. I go in. You find Sophie. Convince her the man manipulating her is about to murder a child. If she still remembers the girl in that locket, she'll help us. Ethan nodded, already dialing. Night bled across the city like spilled ink. Grant retrieved the locket from his bedside drawer, thumb brushing Sophie's tiny smiling face. 2 years of silence, a million unopened texts, and 1 river's worth of regret. He dressed in dark clothes, ignoring the ache in his ribs. He was done letting other people pay for his choices. 11 sharp Fulton Industrial Warehouse loomed corrugated metal, shattered windows, graffiti scars. Grant stepped inside to an echoing cavern lit by 1 flood lamp. Riley sat on a chair, wrist bound, but her eyes were steady, defiant. Derek appeared behind her, pistol in hand, shark smile gleaming. You actually came, Derek purred. That's almost heroic. Almost. Grant lifted his hands. Let the girl go, Derek. This is between you and me. How noble. Derek circled Riley like a vulture. Tell me, does Sophie still call you Dad? Or did you trade her for quarterly returns, like you traded my soul for a hostile takeover? Grant's voice cracked. You were stealing client pensions, Derek. I stopped you. You destroyed me. Derek's shout reverberated off steel beams, guns shaking with fury. Tonight I take everything you still value. He raised the weapon. A high-pitched beep cut through the air. Then another, rapid, urgent. Derek's eyes flicked down. On his belt, Grant saw the miniature biometric tracker Dr. Vaughn used for ICU patients, now flashing a crimson alarm. Outside, sirens wailed closer. Grant kept his voice calm. That tracker's broadcasting your location to emergency services. Caroline rigged it to your vitals feed. She never trusted your rage. Derek's jaw tightened. The gun wavered. In that sliver of hesitation, Riley kicked her foot back, hooking Derek's knee. He stumbled. Grant lunged, slamming his shoulder into Derek's chest. The gun clattered across concrete. Riley scrambled away as red-blue strobes painted the windows. Police floodlights burst through. Officers stormed in, pinning Derek to the ground. Grant sagged to his knees, pulling Riley into his arms. Her small frame trembled, yet her voice was steady. I knew you'd come. We're sorry to pause right here, but your thoughts matter. Would you have trusted Grant to keep his promise? Or would you have tried escaping on your own like Riley did? And do you believe Sophie will forgive her father now that Derek's lies are exposed? If this chapter kept your heart racing, please tap, like, and drop a heart to show your support. Your encouragement keeps the story alive. The storm broke just before dawn, washing the warehouse yard clean of siren flash and shattered pride. While officers led Derek Vaughn to a squad car, Grant Whitmore knelt beside Riley Monroe beneath the dripping eaves, his designer coat draped over her thin shoulders. The river's chill still clung to their bones, yet something warmer pulsed between them, an unfinished promise neither was willing to let drown. A sleek sedan rolled through the police barricade. Sophie Whitmore stepped out, hair unbound, eyes raw from a night of revelations. She stopped a few paces from her father and the girl who had risked everything. Riley tightened her grip on Grant's sleeve. Grant rose slowly. "Sophie," he began, voice hoarse, "there's no excuse for the years I lost with you, but I'm done letting silence speak for us." She held up the locket now hanging from her own neck. "Riley said she found this on a playground years ago. I gave it away by accident when I was little before Mom left. She's kept it safe ever since." Riley nodded shyly. It reminded me that happy families were real somewhere. Emotion rippled through Sophie's hardened walls. She knelt to Riley's height. "You saved my dad." Riley's answer was simple. "Everyone deserves one chance to be better." Sophie's gaze slid to Grant. "And what about the people you hurt?" Grant reached into his pocket and produced a sealed envelope, weather-stained edges brittle. "Nathan Monroe hid this under Hudson Bridge. Inside is the evidence of every predatory loan Whitmore Financial sold. Every family we cornered." He met Sophie's eyes. "I'm submitting it to federal investigators today. The firm will answer, starting with me." Her voice trembled, equal parts anger and relief. "You'd burn it all down. I already burned it," he said. "I'm staying to build something new." Sophie's tears came then, quiet, cathartic. She slipped her arm through Riley's, the three forming an imperfect circle of scarred hands and tentative hope. 2 weeks later, Manhattan buzzed with rumors of an empire's collapse. But inside a modest hearing room on Wall Street, Grant stood before the Securities Commission. The damning dossier lay open on the table. He confessed to every line item, every shell fund, every hardened choice that had fattened his bottom line and hollowed his soul. When the gavel fell, Whitmore Financial was placed in receivership. Grant forfeited controlling shares to a restitution trust for victimized borrowers. Headlines screamed scandal, markets reeled, yet an undercurrent of astonishment flowed. Wherever his statement was replayed, a titan had willingly unmade himself. That evening, Grant, Sophie, and Riley walked the length of Hudson Bridge. Gus fluttered Riley's new blue coat, an early birthday gift. Halfway across, Sophie produced a tin box of wildflower seeds. "Mom used to say, 'Bridges remember,'" she whispered. "Let's give this one a better memory." They scattered seeds through railing gaps, letting wind and river claim them. Riley giggled when a seed stuck to Grant's cheek. He left it there, a small badge of rebirth. Months rolled forward. Grant sold his penthouse and moved into a refurbished brownstone near Central Park, big enough for 3 but cozy enough to feel like one story instead of separate chapters. Adoption papers arrived on a rainy Tuesday. Riley Monroe, Whitmore age, 8, legal daughter. She celebrated by painting a mural on her new bedroom wall. Sunrise over a bridge. A tiny girl holding hands with 2 taller figures. Grant's phone, once an altar to quarterly earnings, now flashed reminders for school recitals and community board meetings. He launched the Monroe Foundation with the Restitution Trust's first payout funding clinics, where medical debt no longer determined who lived or died. Dr. Carolyn Vaughn, stripped of her license, entered a plea deal and testified against her brother, adding another brick to Justice's slow bridge. One brisk autumn morning, Grant found Sophie on the brownstone stoop, coffee steaming in her palms. "Heading to the university," she said. "I've decided to finish Mom's social work degree." He smiled, heart swelling. "You'll change more futures than I ever could." "Not without Riley's bravery," she replied, "or your choice to listen to it." The day Riley first called him, Dad came unexpectedly. She was balancing on a park bench, arms outstretched, pretending to tightrope over invisible water. She wobbled, leaped, and landed safely in his arms. "Thanks, Dad," she laughed, unthinking. He held her a moment longer than necessary, savoring the word, the weight, the absolution. News networks eventually moved on, and Wall Street found a new obsession. But in neighborhoods once crushed by bad loans, the Monroe Foundation's vans became familiar sights. Mobile clinics painted in bright colors, staffed by former Whitmore analysts who traded spreadsheets for service. Families lined up not with fear, but with fragile hope. One evening, Riley tugged Grant to Hudson Bridge again. Sunset blazed crimson over the water. From the railing, green shoots poked through steel seams, wildflowers claiming their space. "Do you think my parents see this?" Riley asked. Grant followed her gaze. "I believe they see a girl who turned a river's cold into a city's second chance." Riley rested her head against his side. Sophie snapped a photo, silhouettes on the bridge, wildflowers at their feet, a river that no longer carried only regrets. As twilight deepened, Grant whispered almost to himself, "True wealth isn't in what we own, but who we stand beside when the water rises." Riley squeezed his hand. "And who dives after us when we sink?" Thank you for staying with us to the very last wave of this story. Did Grant's redemption feel earned to you, or should forgiveness require even more? Would you have scattered seeds on the bridge, or chosen a different memorial for the past? Tell us what you think of the whole journey. Comment number 3 if you loved it, number 1 if you're still unsatisfied, and number 2 if it was just okay. We'd love to know where in the world you're watching from too. Please drop a heart and share this video so more people can feel the power of second chances.